What's going on, guys? JYK Gaming here with
Steven.
And what do you do, Steven?
I won locals with Sky Striker.
Oh, baby. What do you actually do, buddy?
I top 8 Nats with Adventure Despia.
And how was that experience for you?
Obviously really good. It was really fun. The format's actually really diverse. I didn't play a duplicate deck until top 16, I think, was the first duplicate I played. Also, everyone was really nice. I think everyone's happy to have in real life Turn. He's back. So
yeah. Did it flow nicely your deck, or is there any hiccups or?
The deck definitely has some hiccups. Like the engines conflict to some degree, but the games where it's going off, it just feels insane. And there's enough Saki cards in this deck where even the subpar hands can get there a lot of the times.
All right, let's take a look at this profile.
So play 2 Luber, 2 Strategy, and 1 Outlet for the Despia package. So like I said earlier, is that you play the Adventure, so you're playing a smaller version of this. The mentality behind the deck is that I didn't want to have the most powerful end boards. I wanted to have a consistent deck, and I want to have versatile against a larger edge field. And it clearly was a good call considering I played a very large amount of unique decks. So you're just kind of playing the minimum Despia package. 2 is fine for searching. A lot of times you open right in this and it's fine as long as the engine goes through. The Despia engine's powerful enough that even if you have a deck card in hand, you can get to the next turn, and that's when right really shines. It's also really rewarding when they mine you. I'm thinking you're just playing pure Despia, then you have the out to it. 2 Strategy because you don't need a 3rd, and then the 1 Atlet because this card's insane. You're not playing Fright Furs at all because those cards synergize horribly with the Adventure package, as well as hand traps, and so you don't need any further fusions. It's just kind of the bare bones. 2 Albaz, the best brick in the game. This card breaks boards by itself. I didn't come up much at this event where I would normal summon and use the effect. In previous events, it's I did it multiple times in other tourneys. So it still comes up a lot. Still a good card. Also, you can pitch any of these off Faithful Adventure to have your branded red live. So even when you open these weird hands, you still a lot of times get to your engine. Adventure package, 3 Enchantress, 1 Griffin. Don't really need to explain why this is good. Obviously, there is some confliction between the 2 engines, but there's a confliction between a lot of them. You can't normal ZL and use the effect. Can't use Tracer. There's there's hiccups with every deck. But the idea behind this is one that Despia is very powerful. Even just Resolve and Fusion gets you a certain amount of advantage, so you have a way of protecting that. But you also have a way of just having versatility. You don't need a more powerful Despia deck because if the game goes off, you're winning.
So even if you have the confliction, you just stick with the better engine, which is Despia.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you're just playing a slower Despia, but with the games you're going off, it's crazy, right?
Yeah. So the main thing is this protects your engine because Branded Fusion is insane to resolve, but also gives you the versatility. So you go back to the insane card versus Floodgates. There's also games where you're able to play pure Brave because you do play hand traps because you're not playing other Fright Fur cards that aren't doing anything. And so when you're opening hand traps and just Adventure Engine, you're winning a lot of games just off that. And this is kind of the reason I wanted to play this is because I wanted to play hand traps because they're just the most versatile Go Second cards. I know a lot of people are on Go Second Despia, but then you play against Marine Cess or Salad or some weird deck that doesn't care about board breakers, and you just have so many deck cards. So hand traps are always better than that Resolve, and you have to play some kind of Go Second cards because there's so much Scythe and combo decks out there still, especially compared to the beginning of the format where I think that you have to play hand traps, which means the Adventure is the better version. Alright, hand traps, like I said, 3 Ash, 3 Imperm, 2 Nib. I want to keep this list at 40 because it is slight consistency issues. Nothing major, but I want to make it as consistent as possible. I don't want to sacrifice anything for it. So I just decided to play whatever hand traps I could after the engine was fulfilled. These 2 are the best in the mirror, which is a scary matchup. Nib's in the same card, but I was expecting a diverse format, and I did play a lot of back row decks, so the 3rd one is in the side, and it's easy to decide these 2 out when you don't need them.
So that ratio worked out for you? Yeah,
the ratio I think is really good. The other thing is against a lot of Scythe decks is that if you're going Griffin and then trying to Hulk into Bear and whatnot, 1 hand trap will prevent them from burying and scything in the standby phase, which means you always get to main phase. And so you can always just go main phase, activate Branded Fusion, and play. And so as opposed to other decks, which need multiple hand traps in order to stop Scythe and actually play, this deck only needs 1 because your engine naturally just plays in the beginning of the main phase, and so Scythe doesn't do anything. It's weird to say Despia doesn't care about Scythe, but when I'm just summoning Mirror Jade and you're not getting Bearing because Mirror Jade's on the board, and now I activate I'm winning from those positions.
And all you really was going for was the Mirror Jade, right?
Yeah. Mirror Jade, and you still get, and as you're clearing your board, you still set Brandon ready, you still have follow-up, so it's still good.
And you play on their turn, it's insane.
3 Fusion, this card. Ash was resolved on this card twice the entire tourney. I think I opened Callby twice, I opened Griffin a lot of times to just stop it.
Would you cut it down if is it too bricky, or?
This? I think I should just throw this card in the garbage.
Oh yeah, it's the best card of the deck, right?
Best card in the game right now. It just gets you so far. There's also a consideration between using Mirror Jade or holding it for, like using it to get the Branding Red or holding it for your opponent's turn, because a lot of decks can't push through it. And if you're having hand traps as well, you can hold the Mirror Jade and you have your more guaranteed follow-up. And people don't respect the hand traps as much, so it's that kind of difference helps. Also, people are citing crows, and if you're not using Mirror Jade, then the crow is dead. So they have a dead card playing into a negate.
So even though there's a lot less lines in the deck, it's like very important which line you choose, what you're basically saying with the Mirror Jade.
Yes.
Okay.
Also, the Mirror Jade consideration is one big line. The other consideration is that you need to, at the beginning of your turn, basically decide whether you're going to commit to right engine or whether you're committing to Albaz or Aluber. And the engine, like, the hands both have lines and they can play through, but they play through different things. So you really need that consideration of, like, at the beginning of your turn, committing to one line.
So before we go further, you brought up the choosing the line. I heard in your top 16 match with Deep Patel, you had a right engine in your hand, and you prosperitied. Instead of grabbing the branded opening to play both engines, you decided to pick up a second Ash, and that won you the game essentially. Is that true?
I picked up the first Ash.
Yeah.
I picked up the Ash over the Brandon.
Yeah.
So I had Fusion already, but there's no real way of setting the Brandon Red, so I just set up.
And then you pitched the right with the Lubelli on it. That call ended up winning you that match. So that's so it's those key lines that you got to look for.
Yeah. You have to know which engine you're playing. You can sack off one engine if the other engine is going to get you there, and then depending on the matchup, they will.
Yeah, that's really cool. Thank you.
3 opening. More starters. The great effects are really insane. One thing people I also don't see do much is that in end phase, if you're getting mirror nuked in the mirror, you want to search this off Lubon and then use this immediately and just get the protection. And if you don't have a card to discard in hand, you can also send Atlantis to get this one, and then discard the Fusion to get this engrave, which came up in top 16 where I had Masters about to get nuked. It's like search, discard,
protect your board,
and you're at 200.
And then your Mirror Jade's live on your turn.
Well, he was at 200 with Masters.
Oh, it's just dead. You're just dead.
That's just 2 red, you don't need further because like you're playing a reduced engine. The second one always comes up, you can't play less than that. Adventure cards, 3 right, Faithful, Draco back. This engine's insane. The one cute thing with this, which comes up in fair base, you open Albaz, you can go like act and this, like not this.
Yeah.
Like, Faithful and Albaz, you can normal Albaz and then, or you can Faithful, normal Albaz and have this
chain block?
Yeah, chain block and search you equip 2 is chain 2, which comes up a fair bit. So just things like that, they're cute. Also with this card, it gives you a lot of discard fodder because every turn you're getting Enchantress discard and searching right. And even if you're just using that right discard fodder, like Despia discards a lot, and so having free card advantage is really good. Like
I see that's the big complaint too, is they think there's no discards, so you're just discarding free pieces you're getting off the adventure anyways.
Yeah, like people are playing Pfeiffer package in order to discard, but this engine does the same thing. It'll be a bit slower and a little bit less consistent, but like
at least
it's much more versatile, and like it's still fulfilling the same role. 3 prosperities because you're wanting max out consistency. Banishing 6 is never a problem. There's also a lot of power cards in the deck, like 3 Super Poly as well.
So you did like the main deck Super Poly.
This card was insane the entire weekend. It was like the second best card, with the best card being in the side. It just lets you break a lot of boards. It's also really good with Enchantress. Hasn't come up at all this event, but it came up in previous events where like I'd set this and then Super Poly the Hulk and this away from Mudragon. And one of the things like with people complaining about this card is like if you're only opening this as your go second card, like this does nothing, or like it's not good enough. But when you have hand traps as well, like you have a weakened board already, and then this just takes care of the rest of the board.
I know we'll be getting to it later, but since we're on it now, did your hot tech Panzer Dragon come in?
Yeah, Panzer Dragon came in once, so
okay.
I play a larger array of Super Poly targets. So Storm Venom, which I don't think is that changed, but Panzer Dragon, which is a dragon and machine, came up against Dragon Links. It's good versus Punk Theory, where they go hot, red, and regular, so you can 2 negates like that. And also Mudragon. So you just want to like actually have versatility with this card. And you have their prosperity targets regardless. One Foolish because it gets you to both engines, one Call By because I don't like Ash. So 40 card main, wouldn't change anything with that. I feel really clean.
Very clean deck.
Extra deck, relatively standard, I think. Double Mirror Jade, double Luban, double Lubellion. This is a prosperity target here. Double Chimera, again, prosperity target. 1 mass. You don't play second mass. I think it came up once in theory, but it doesn't come up that much in general. Maybe you play over second Chimera might make a bit more sense, but you only really summon this in very niche scenarios with Brandon Red or with this in like a really specific scenario. Predator Planet, Avalantis, Portless, and then Super Poly targets. So this came up once. This didn't come up a lot on Nats, but I played that for a few regionals, and like this comes up a lot otherwise. And also like the second effect's really good. Switch versus Punk, if you hand trap them once, they end with Snow and Grave, and then Help Dagda. And so if you set Enchantress and Super Poly for this, and then you just go, right Griffin. They can't even book the Griffin with the snow because you just call win.
Call win. That's awesome. That's nasty.
I think the extra deck space standard otherwise. Like I said before, with this is like you can hold this a lot of times. You don't always want to shotgun it, especially you want to put a read on what kind of decks are. If they're playing like a punk deck with more hand traps, you expect them to be on crows a bit more, and their engine's weaker, so I wouldn't be as worried about having to get the brand new live veteran.
So you didn't miss anything though, right? Like the extra deck worked out for you.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything I wish I was including. Maybe the super party target, the prep plant that's 3. But like again, that's so specific. Maybe take the Chimera out, second Chimera out for that.
That Panzer Drag, when I heard about that, was really cool. I like that idea.
It's just making you
Was that your idea or was that your team's?
That was my idea to put that.
That was
Because
a
I
good
lost
idea.
to Punk Therion at a regional where he hot red and Regulus, and it's like I can just clear the board if I play this card. And so
Play this
like,
card.
and it came up once in the event, and like that steals the game. So that's all that matters.
All right.
3 Joel. I think this card's insane. The problem with this is this deck's still got to Scythe underneath it, but like you don't care about Scythe because you're playing Brand Infusion. Pankratops, this card was horrible. I decided and it never came up, but one of the issues with this is that you have a lot of things you want to do at the beginning of your main phase, so you don't want to have this card like have to drop in the beginning of your main phase. In theory, I think this should just be Feather Storm.
The real.
Yeah, Feather Duster.
Like, yeah.
I was on Reboot initially. I think Reboot's bad because there's too many hands where you don't open enough gas to push through it, so it feels subpar. But I don't like this either, so I think Feather Duster is fine. The third Nib, and then the Spice, 3 Denko, the third one signed and given away. This card is insane. I played Flu, Sky, and then 2 Eldritch versions, and this card just like wins the game. Like you just summon, the game ends.
Is there times where you've just Griffin, Denko, swing past, and it got you there, or is there just like every time you had a combo right after the Denko?
I haven't done Griffin. I don't think I did a Griffin. I think I did a regional before, or locals. But I definitely done like this and just Brand Infusion, like had that project with the Mirror Jade.
So it just went nuts.
This card's also insane in the mirror because the mirror's very sacky in general. Like there's too many power, like anti-power cards, like just preventing your opponent from playing. Like Super ID Barrier, Cross Out, and so being able to summon this just ends the game. Like, of course, sometimes you're gonna have Snow or live Mirror Jade, but like the games.
There's always so much you can play around in it.
This game card wins unwinnable games, and so like it's not gonna win every game, but the game where it actually sticks, like it just ends.
So I had that same theory with Lightning Storm, but I was losing to flipping up like Barrier, and this card's a lot better than Lightning Storm. So I agree with this pick.
It plays around a lot more stuff because it prevents them from chaining it, and it has better coverage as well. The other thing is like this is another light target because in original list I was playing Veiler, but I don't want to play Veiler because Imperm's better. But now you just choose like. One of these is good in every single matchup, so you just keep whichever one's in. So that kind of solved that light issue. I don't know how Pankratops got back here. 3 Cosmics, more back row removal.
Pankratops just loves you, buddy.
I hate this card. 3 Cosmics, I don't know. The Twins are not as good for discard fodder. I don't know if it would have been better because they play a lot and still have back row, but I think it's good enough to just plug eights. You can play through like fair back row enough that's just. That just shade the one for once fine.
It's hard to commit a lot of back row decks when you're trying to commit your deck to like a top cut deck, So I understand the choice of Cyclone over a lot of spell and trap removal.
The other thing as well is like this, it's Scythe, so against punk decks, only punk decks, because if you have decks with more negates, you can't really play this. But against punk decks, you can still put this in, hit the Scythe, or if they have the anti-spell, hit the anti-spell. 3 Keys to Boo, because this card's a good floodgate and doesn't affect your deck. Saw versus Flu, Wish I Saw versus Sword, which are my 2 losses, and then 1 Banishment just for the mirror. It also comes up in other matchups, so if you're playing a slower game against trap decks, you can put this in as well because it allows you to like banish their cards.
And it's also just a glorified call by the call
haunted, yeah. And it's really good as well because like the problem with this is often it's hard to get it set up live turn 1, but against slower decks, this card's always live.
Okay. Do you have any shout outs, any teammates that you built your deck with?
Shout out to Nigel Lamb. He was the one that like created this entire list. His main deck is completely his. I like added some of the spice in the forms of Denko and some of the super poly targets. And shout out to Councilor Urbina, who I roomed with. Fair few of them top, which is nice to see. And shout out to Hamilton guys, Eric, Lucas, Emad, Thomas. I think that's everyone.
All right. Thank you so much, Steve. Good luck in the future.
Thank you.